In Nicaragua, the government makes progress in a police and army program known as the Containment Wall, aimed at curbing organized crime. In Palestine, displaced refugees in Gaza face a shortage of food supplies. Spanish authorities announced the incorporation of 500 members of the army to face Dana in the province of Valencia. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Venezuela received on November 1st a delegation from the Colombian government to conduct peace talks with the National Liberation Army. The Colombian government delegation is headed by Vera Grape, who will sit at the dialogue table with the delegation of the National Liberation Army, represented by Pablo Bertrand. The National Liberation Army will resume the talks, which are at a complex moment due to the government's claim to have achieved total peace. At the dialogue table, they intend to make progress in the elaboration of a peace agreement that will put an end to decades of armed conflict in the nation. And the government of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela finds incomprehensible a recent statement issued by the Brazilian Foreign Ministry, which tries to deceive the international community by pretending to be victims in a situation where they have clearly acted as perpetrators, which has surprised the Brazilian, Venezuelan, and Latin American society. In a statement, the government said Venezuela has demonstrated through public denunciation with dozens of proofs how the Foreign Ministry has undertaken a blatant and rude aggression against the constitutional President Nicolás Maduro's public institutions and powers, as well as Venezuelan society, in a systematic campaign that violates the principles of the United Nations Charter, such as national sovereignty and self-determination of peoples, even violating the Brazilian Constitution itself in its mandate of non-interference in internal affairs of states. The argument expressed by the Brazilian Foreign Ministry to interfere in Venezuela's electoral and political issues, calling itself a witness of the Barbados agreements, lacks veracity and is a ruse that must cease immediately, since said agreements were drafted exclusively by Venezuelans. The Bolivarian government once again urges Brazil's foreign ministry bureaucracy to desist from interfering in matters that only concern Venezuelans, avoiding deterioration of diplomatic relations between the two countries, for which they should assume professional and respectful diplomatic conduct, as Venezuela has demonstrated through its foreign policy. Moving on, in Nicaragua, the government is making progress in a police and armed program known as the Containment Wall, aimed at curbing organized crime. As part of this initiative, this week police seized a car traveling from Managua to San Juan del Sur with 263 kilograms of cocaine and $32,400. Police said they also found drugs in a truck, which was bound for Honduras from the El Guazule border post, carrying at least 261 kilos of cocaine. The Containment Wall operation is a joint effort of police and army forces using intelligence information to block the entrance of arms, money, and drug coming from drug trafficking and organized crime into the country. And in Buenos Aires, on November, the city proudly unveils its annual celebration of love, diversity, and identity during the Pride Week. The LGBT Pride Parade takes place every November, with a series of concerts, a stunning parade, and after-parties. This year, the Pride Argentina March, number 33, will take place on November the 2nd. It will be the first march since the beginning of Javier Milei's presidency, and it will not be financed by the national government. The three main slogans promoted are Pride is not for sale, it is made visible and defended, Stop Hunger and Persecution, and for a democratic agreement against hate speeches. In Argentina, the government wants to put up for sale hundreds of plots of land that were used as clandestine centers during the last civil military dictatorship, while being denounced as a way of denying and normalizing state terrorism. On October 24th, Decree 950, signed by President Javier Milei, was published selecting 309 plots of land throughout the country to be sold. Among the land selected for sale was a clandestine detention, torture, and extermination center, La Perla Chica, in Córdoba. This decision will be subjected to legal proceedings in the next few hours, while human rights organizations have denounced an attempt to sell memory. We're going to take a short break, but first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Palestine, food supplies are insufficient to meet the needs of displaced people in the Gaza Strip. Hundreds of Palestinians gather in front of a United Nations facility in the city of Deir al-Balah to receive the little food that enters the occupied territory, despite an intense blockade by Israeli forces on humanitarian aid. The Israeli blockades and attacks affect the hundreds of thousands of displaced people in refugee camps that live in extreme conditions due to the Israeli genocide against the Gaza Strip.
Anything at the present time represents something big to us in this situation of ours, during the war. As you can see, the economic situation and the prices of goods are high and expensive. Today, flour is something we cannot do without. A while ago, the price of a bag of flour was little over $1, today it costs $5.
It is not enough for our needs. It does not satisfy my children's livelihood. Today, when I receive the flour and take it home, I have 6 people, and my mother and sister are with me. They need food and drink and there is no income.
An Israeli strike hit a building in the coastal city of Tyre in southern Lebanon. It's November 1st, another heavy raid added to the attacks of recent days. Friday's strike in the coastal city of Tyre in southern Lebanon destroyed a building on the city's seafront. Ambulances were seen rushing to the location and also some rescuers and paramedics pulling people from under the rubble. According to reports, since conflict between Hezbollah and Israel intensified on September 23rd, after nearly a year, at least 1,829 people have been killed in Lebanon. In Palestine, Israeli forces launched a new assault against the United Nations Office for Palestine Refugees in the occupied West Bank. The wave of violence against the UN office comes after the Israeli parliament banned the agency from operating in the occupied territories. For its part, UNRWA said that the center provided basic services to more than 4,000 Palestinian refugees in the Nur Shams refugee department, including sanitation and social protection for thousands of children. The international community condemned Israel's decision and remarked that the United Nations office warns about the aggression suffered by millions of Palestinian children in the face of Tel Aviv's aggressions. In Iran, Islamic Revolution leader Ali Khamenei said Israel and the United States will be getting a forceful response to their aggressions against Iran. The warning issued by Iranian Islamic Revolution leader Ali Khamenei followed an airstrike by Israel with United States backing against some military targets in Iran. Khamenei said that Tel Aviv violated Iranian sovereignty and therefore Tehran has the right to legitimate self-defense action, according to Article 51 of the United Nations Charter. The Ayatollah Khamenei said Tehran will strengthen its military capabilities to counter global arrogance by Washington and Tel Aviv. The Russian Defense Ministry announced the liberation of a town in the Donetsk region and another one in Kharkov. The Defense Ministry added that Ukrainian forces lost over 2,045 soldiers on the line of operations of the southern group during the last hours. They also confirmed that Russian troops destroyed 50 unmanned aerial vehicles and destroyed 4 U.S.-made missiles. Since the beginning of the military operation, the Russian armed forces have managed to neutralize dozens of attacks by the Ukrainian troops on the border areas of the Russian territory. The Russian government announced that defense forces shot down at least 24 Ukrainian drones in several regions of the country. The UAVs were intercepted in the Kursk, Bryansk, Belgorod, Crimea, and other provinces bordering Ukraine. The Defense Ministry pointed out that the Ukrainian army planned to attack Russian service facilities with drones. It also noted that during October, Kiev forces intensified their attacks on oil refineries and fuel depots. And in Mauritania, a Chinese hospital ship arrived to provide medical support to the local population as part of the mission Harmony 2024. The Chinese ship began its first goodwill visit of 7 in the country. It is also the first time that a ship of the Chinese Navy has visited the country since China and Mauritania established diplomatic relations in 1965. The official medical team left the ship for the medical centers where they treated women, children, and elderly residents with prevalent health problems such as hypertension, diabetes, and gastrointestinal disorders. On the other hand, the ship's authorities announced that the objective is to provide health and hope through the warmth of care. Let's now take a short break, but first, we would like to invite you to watch our special segment with our colleague Belén de los Santos, dedicated to the upcoming general elections in the United States. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Spanish authorities announced on November 1st the incorporation of 500 members of the army to face the consequences left by the meteorological phenomenon Dana in the province of Valencia. The Minister of Defense, Margarita Robles, said that 300 soldiers from the army are already working since 800 hours in the Valencian community. One of the affected areas is the community of Shiva, which registered the record rainfall during the Dana, and since Tuesday, its inhabitants have been without electricity, water, and telephone communications.
There are people injured, there are still people trapped, and we have to try to rescue them. The emergency services are helping, but it's true that we want to go and help too. And we can help a lot there because many hands are needed. The emergency services are finding it very difficult to get in, though especially ambulances that are trapped by traffic jam.
We went to see how we could help the fire services, and they told us that what they needed to do was to open roads so that they could enter and distribute their aid. So because there were so many people on the main streets, it made their work very difficult, but they need help.
In Honduras, authorities have issued an alert given the proximity and likelihood of storm brewing in the Caribbean of becoming a hurricane. The Secretary of Risk Management and National Contingencies have issued a preventive alert for several departments in the country likely to be hit by the storm. They have alerted border areas with El Salvador and Nicaragua to remain vigilant and take measures to protect the population, especially the most vulnerable sectors. The Secretary of Risk Management and Contingencies has warned communities in the areas prone to landslides and floods to take preventive measures, in addition to evacuating people to safe places. And in China, weather authorities issue a yellow alert in 8 provinces due to heavy fog affecting the country. Authorities reported a thick fog with a visibility of less than 500 meters in some areas of central and northern China since early morning on Saturday. Local authorities issued an alert to prevent road accidents and to ensure civil safety. Likewise, authorities call on cargo drivers to take necessary measures to avoid road accidents, while recommending airports to temporarily suspend takeoffs and landings. And from October 24th to the 30th, Italy reported 5,799 cases of COVID-19 and 108 deaths. Italy's Higher Institute of Health reported that in the last week, tests for the presence of the SARS-CoV-2 virus were carried out, and the average positivity rate was 7%. The results showed that 221,561 people remain positive for the disease. Since the COVID-19 pandemic began on January 30th, 2020, in this country, 26,942,274 people have been infected with the SARS-CoV-2 virus. And in the United States, more than 60 million people voted early in the presidential elections on November 5th, 2024. Polls show that in 7 key states, the race between Republican candidate Donald Trump and Democratic candidate Kamala Harris remains even. Data collected in states such as Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina, and Virginia shows that women represent 55% of early voters, while men represent 45%. The Trump-Harris race underscores the divide in the United States, with both parties mobilizing solid bases. In this context, the two candidates for the November 5th elections, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, will concentrate their efforts in the final stretch of the campaign by holding rallies in 5 battleground states. On Friday, the presidential hopefuls are expected to meet again in Wisconsin, where polls show Harris leading Trump by 7/10 of a point. In this regard, Harris will also visit Atlanta in Georgia and the city of Charlotte in North Carolina, while his rival Donald Trump will visit Gastonia and Greensboro in North Carolina. The presidential election is decided directly through the Electoral College, which has 538 electors, allowing a candidate to win the presidency even if he loses the popular vote. In Mexico, authorities are projecting revenues of over $1.2 billion from Day of the Dead celebrations. The tourism ministry estimates at least 3,127,000 visitors, of which 78% will be nationals, while at least 22% will be from abroad, which represents an over 4% increase in regards to the same period last year. On this festivity, Mexicans honor the memory of their past loved ones, with decorations and offerings exalting the typical elements of the native cultures.
This is how much it means to me. Coming here to visit where my parents rest. I've passed this on to my children and grandchildren. And that's why they come too. They'll be here any moment now.
Here in Mexico, we celebrate death. For us, it's on the 31st when our loved ones who have passed return to visit us. They come to see us, and at home we set up our altar with their photos, their favorite foods, and the drinks they enjoyed, welcoming them back in this way.
We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. So join us on our social medias on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.